Welcome to our Thriving at the Beach podcast, your reliable source of information and a peek under the tent regarding all of the amazing things taking place in our Grand Strand community. There are so many great things underway here that we believe it's time to start telling our stories. That's exactly what Thrivin at the Beach will do. This podcast has been created for all the residents in this great coastal community because we want you to be the first to know things that are coming and get the most accurate and up-to-date details on every initiative. In this podcast, we'll be hearing from the community partners that are busy building a brighter and more vibrant tomorrow. These partners will include the City of Myrtle Beach Downtown Alliance, the Myrtle Beach Regional Economic Development Team, the multiple chambers of commerce, the HTC Aspire Hub Emerge leadership, key business leaders, assorted community partners, and many more. It's our hope that you'll catch the momentum of how we are and will be thriving at the beach. I'm Peggy Masterson, and I'll be your host for Thrivin at the Beach. I'm the director of the Partnership Grand Strand Foundation, and in case you haven't heard about us, we are the nonprofit foundation that's an extension of the Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce. We were created by local business leaders to serve local residents and local businesses across all of the 14 communities that make up our beautiful coastal area. Our work allows us the opportunity, a very unique opportunity, to collaborate and support all of the organizations that are busy building a better tomorrow. This provides us a wonderful opportunity to collect all this exciting information and share it with each of you. I could not be more excited to be able to facilitate a way for these experts to tell their stories and share their exciting news with you. So get ready, get psyched to get a peek under the tent on projects, businesses, and opportunities coming to our area. I can't wait to watch you catch the momentum and then share it with others. Let's dive right in. Welcome to a new episode of Thrivin at the Beach. We are so thrilled today to have Dr. Michael Benson here as one of our guests. He is the president of Coastal Carolina University, as well as a history professor. He's been in the public higher education world for over 30 years and has had the opportunity to live overseas for about 7 years, it looks like, and is a marathon runner. So we'll have to hear more about that as we move forward. He's also a big believer in community connection and has been highly involved in the Myrtle Beach and surrounding areas in terms of driving the role that education can play across our community. So thank you, Dr. Benson, for being here today.
Thank you for the invite, Peggy. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. So as you know, the purpose of this little Thrivin podcast is to really give listeners an opportunity to get to know the people that are kind of busy building a foundation for us to continue to grow and thrive here in the Myrtle Beach and surrounding areas. And this is a perfect opportunity for me to be able to thank Coastal Carolina under your leadership to be a diamond level sponsor for Partnership Grand Strand. So we appreciate that. It'd be uncalled for me not to be able to say thank you while I have you here at a podcast. So we appreciate it. So as we kind of dive in and talk a little bit about it, I wanted to see, as you've spoken about being in higher education for 30 years, can you tell us a little bit about your journey that led you here to Myrtle Beach?
Well, first off, thank you for the invitation. And nice to meet Frankie, one of our students at Coastal Carolina, who's back of house doing all the work to make us sound good. I'm the youngest of 6 children. My family kind of moved around a bit. That's, I think, where I got the wanderlust in my own life. Utah, Indiana, Texas, back to Utah. And then I was overseas for, 3 different stints in Italy, England, and then Israel. But I attribute all the good that's happened to me in my personal and professional life to the investment my parents made in their 6 children by giving us chances they never dreamed of. I mean, I was the first in my family, for example, to do study abroad. I was the first to go overseas to do graduate work. As the youngest of 6, I think my parents were tired by the time they got to me. So I got away with a lot in terms of having quite a bit of latitude. So I was fortunate to kind of carve my own path and make my own way. I was the first to do a doctorate. I have an older brother who's a political a Pulitzer Prize winning cartoonist. Drew for 30 years for the Arizona Republic.
Wow.
And then 4 sisters in the middle, all of whom are amazing musicians. My mother was a piano teacher. My father went to Stanford, got a master's degree in education, and found his niche in sales. He had a company that sold china and cookware. And I think he lived vicariously. Both of my parents have passed away, but he loved education as well. And he kind of saw what I was doing as it gave him great satisfaction. So, I got my start at the University of Utah. I did the math the other day. That was a long time ago. That was 31 years ago. And then presidencies at 2 schools in Utah, and then 1 in Kentucky. And then we kept moving farther east. And if we go any further, we're going to be in the middle of the Atlantic. So we will stop right here. And we love it here. I have 5 children myself, 2 older kids. And then all 3 of our youngest kids are in Myrtle Beach High School together this year. So it's great fun to see them drive themselves to school. And
alleviates a little chaos in the morning, right?
That's right.
Here's the keys. See it.
My wife really kind of was born and raised in Utah. Lived in Texas for a short period, but we love it here. There's something about South Carolina. People are very friendly. The pace of life is wonderful. We live in a beautiful place. I went for my daily ritual of a walk on the beach this morning about 6 o'clock. And I can't believe all the people out there taking photographs of the sun rising. And I never want to forget that we have the amazing opportunity to live here. And all these people that come here on vacation save a lot of money to be able to do it. I never want to take for granted that every day we can look out our window and there it is. And it's a beautiful place.
That's well said. And, sometimes as we, I can say personally, I used to always think, I'd love to go, live and work at the beach. And obviously we've accomplished that here as well. But when you get here, it's easy to forget that you have this wonderful 60 miles of coast beach line to be able to really enjoy. We take those things for granted sometimes, I think. So thank you for bringing us back to center in terms of what's important. So I don't know a whole lot about the kind of process within the education world, I guess I would say. But I know that you're a history professor, and then you have held multiple president roles at some of these other universities. How does one progress from like the professor side of things into the leadership role at a college or university?
I gave thanks to my parents. The person that gave me professionally my start was a guy named Bernie Matchin. And President Matchin had been the provost of Michigan. He was a dentist, pediatric dentist by training, dean of the dental school at UNC Chapel Hill. And he got named to be president of the University of Utah. And he took a chance on this kind of 33-year-old aspiring administrator. I was a fundraiser at the time. I did have a faculty appointment, but I've never been a full-time faculty member. I did take a year off, spent a year at Johns Hopkins as a visiting faculty member while I did my 3rd book. And Bernie gave me a chance. I mean, he said, I want you to commit sins of commission instead of omission. So, be aggressive, learn from your mistakes. And I've never forgotten that lesson.
Yeah, that's wise.
He gave me an opportunity, and I've always tried to emulate that example by giving other people an opportunity. And I'm, quite frankly, I'll be 60 in February. I'm in the 4th quarter of my career. So I take more satisfaction now in seeing others really do well and find a path for themselves than I ever did in my own career. I mean, I've been given some wonderful opportunities, but I think it's really important for the current generation to see the promise in the rising generation and to give them every chance possible. I see it every day on campus. A word of encouragement to students, an opportunity to be part of a project or a part of a team earlier in their life and career, I think is so very important, because Bernie did that for me and it changed everything. I went from presidency to presidency. I started at a very small 2-year school in central Utah and then moved to Southern Utah University, which is a big, it's not real big, 10,000 students, but high desert, 6,000 feet. And then from there we went to horse country in the middle of central Kentucky.
Oh.
Beautiful rolling farms just south of Lexington. And then, as I said, here to the beach. Our house here is at 9 feet elevation. Our house in Utah was at 6,000 feet. So that's a pretty big swing. So when Hurricane Ian rambled through here, people were really worried. I get a lot of calls from our friends out west like, we heard the storm surge is 10 feet. Are you okay? And I think after you have that experience, the folks that have been here for a while, they're accustomed to it. But for us, this was only 2 years ago. And I think not that we're grizzled veterans, but we know what to expect, I think.
Yeah, I think you have to go through one before you can get to that point. But that first one is pretty scary, no question. You mentioned your books. Mm-hmm. I want to give us an opportunity to hear a little bit more about those. You've written 3 books?
I have. I've written 2 and co-authored the middle one. My first one was really my dissertation. I remember Bernie Matches, the one that told me, he said, you spent so much time on this book, you got to take advantage of that. And so I was naive. I'd never worked with a publisher before, so I took 2 or 3 chapters and I sent it to every major academic press, so Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Chicago, UCLA, and I saved all the rejection letters I got because there were about 20 of them, and they all said, it was a fine piece of writing, but we don't publish dissertations. So I finally sent it to the University of Missouri Press because it was about Harry Truman, who was from Missouri, and his role in the founding of the State of Israel. And they were interested, but then there was another press called Prager out of Connecticut, and they said, we'll take it as it is. We like it. You have to make it camera ready, do all the formatting and that sort of thing. So that was my first book. That was 1998, 1997. Then I co-authored a book in 2015. So there was a big gap there. And then my most recent book is a biography of the first president of Johns Hopkins University. So if you look at the history, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but the history of American higher education in terms of the research university really has its start date when Hopkins was founded in 1876, because nobody had ever tried the model that Daniel Coit Gilman, the subject of my book, did. So he took the German emphasis on research and the British emphasis on the tutorial teaching method and then melded them together and created America's first research university.
Interesting.
And, so I've always been fascinated with him, and nobody had ever written kind of a full-dress biography. And I was just lucky enough that Hopkins Press gave me the contract, and I wrote about 165,000 words in 10 months during COVID. I had the whole library to myself.
Productive few months, I'd say.
Word. I wrote every single day, and I loved it. It was like being back at graduate school. And that came out 2 years ago this month.
And that is called, what is the name of it?
Daniel Coit Gilman and the Birth of the American Research University.
Wonderful.
So I've had a chance to lecture on it quite a bit. I'm going to Louisville to give a big talk next week, and then I've been invited to Bahrain to speak over there. So it's been
so that
great.
Feeds your wanderlust, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I love to travel, and we just returned from Greece with our women's basketball team, and that was an amazing experience for our whole family.
Well, that's a place I'd love to go. I hear it's just beautiful.
Oh, my word. It's rare a place kind of lives up to the hype, and it did. It exceeded
We'll put that on the bucket list then, right? So thank you so much for that. That's really, quite impressive in terms of the things you've been able to do and the contributions that you've made along the way. But if we bring it home here in terms of kind of what's happening in this kind of Myrtle Beach and surrounding area, I know that Coastal Carolina University under your leadership has been so incredibly involved in just about everything that this city is talking about, the city is planning for, and so forth. I wanted to see if you could share a little bit about why is that important to Coastal Carolina, and what role do you think education plays in driving prosperity?
Yeah, I'll take the second part first because I think it's really important. It gives you kind of the context of why I believe so much in education. If you look at all the communities in our country where there are the best outcomes in terms of voter participation, volunteerism, health outcomes, just quality of life, and there are a whole lot of metrics that people use, they are inextricably tied to the level of education in the citizenry. So whatever post-secondary, beyond high school, whether it's a credential, a 2-year degree, a certificate, a bachelor's degree, that is the bellwether of determining how well a community is doing. So for a place like Myrtle Beach, oh, by the way, and people that are more educated will be less dependent on government services. Their their health outcomes will be better. So there's nothing like education, and that's what my parents instilled in me. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, your socioeconomic status. If you invest in yourself and get as much education as you can, it literally can take you anywhere. And
that's powerful.
Yeah, my grandfather was the oldest of 11 kids from a dairy farm. Learned how to drive a team of horses when he was 5 years old. I mean, he was a remarkable guy, and was the first in his family to go to college. Went to Utah State, then Brigham Young, then Iowa State, and from that very humble beginning in Whitney, Idaho, town of 40 people, became Dwight D. Eisenhower Secretary of Agriculture for 8 years. And I have this picture of him being sworn in by Fred Vinson, who was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, from Louisa, Kentucky, a town of 300. My grandfather from Whitney, Idaho, 40 people. And Dwight D. Eisenhower, he was born in Denison, Texas, raised in Abilene, maybe 2,000 people. And each one of those gentlemen, had very significant roles to play in the 40s and 50s and beyond. But it was education that took them to where they were. And so I could talk more about that. I'll stop there. But as it relates to our community, Coastal Carolina was founded in 1954 by a group of people that had no idea how to run a college, but they knew that they wanted that presence, that element in their county. This is, the largest geographic county east of the Mississippi River. And the closest university or college was either College of Charleston, 100 miles to our south, or if you go kind of north and west, you finally get to Columbia. And that was a ways away. So they said, we're going to start one here. And it started as a 2-year night junior college in the basement of Conway High School.
Oh, really?
No.
I didn't know that.
So we were a branch of the College of Charleston for the first few years, and then we became a branch of USC. So our original colors were garnet and black, just like USC. And that's why we have a kind of a take on the rooster. Ours is the Chanticleer. And I'll never lose sight of the kind of the vision, the temerity, the courage that those people had investing in this, not knowing what would happen. And here we are today. Peggy, we started school yesterday, and we have 11,109 students. And
that's awesome.
It is awesome. And you think, we're the second largest employer in the county. You think about the quality of life that we help add to. The events that we, whether it's arts, lectures, educational, sporting events, in many ways we're that epicenter for our county. And that's why I really am so grateful for the penny sales tax that people renewed, because that's what helps fund K-12 education and also our campus in terms of our building projects, and the Horry County Higher Education Commission. So I've never been in a university throughout my career where the community is as invested in Coastal as it is here. Invested in the hometown university. Now, you see Clemson gear, you see USC gear all over the place. I get that. But people here in Horry County love their school. And we in turn love them, because we're a homegrown entity that is quite a success story.
Well, and I know that any folks that have been here for any amount of time that I've spoken with, they have this incredible passion for Coastal Carolina. It comes through in just their casual conversation. I mean, you can always have your favorite sports team, or you can have, like you said, your Clemson and USC here, but there's something special about what's going on up there in your Conway campus, and it's awesome to hear that kind of growth taking place. Now, I know with growth comes change, right? And we're talking today about prosperity, and obviously that includes anything that's going to create greater capacity and offer more solutions to potential problems. Can you tell me about a couple initiatives that you're taking on as a university that will ultimately feed into prosperity for us here?
Well, I tip my cap to you and everybody involved with Partnership Grand Strand, because these four kind of pillars that we've been focusing on, they've been talking about these for a while. And from what people tell me, they've been here longer than I have, is that this is the first kind of concentrated, unified effort to really drill down and see some really seismic changes. And I think we're starting to see that. Exhibit A, the new theater that's going in downtown.
Yeah.
That's going to be the epicenter of this arts and innovation district, and we're the kind of anchor tenant. And so, yes, we're in Conway, but we really see our reach well beyond the Conway parameters, beyond Myrtle Beach, all the way, the entire county. So we are trying to be very responsive to the workforce needs. We're right across the street from Horry Georgetown Tech, a great partner. They are a little more nimble in terms of they can really turn on the dime and pivot and stand up programs that meet needs. If a business comes to them and says, look, we need a certificate, they can do that more quickly. For us to add a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, it takes a little more time. But one I'm really excited about that we started this year is the Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. So up to this point, we've had what's called an RN to BSN. So students start at Horry Georgetown Tech, they become registered nurses, then they transfer to our place and get a bachelor's degree. So RN to BSN, Bachelor of Science in Nursing. Okay. So now we have our own. And, if you were to look at the demographic in our county, tremendous growth, but it's an older population. There are not too many 19-year-olds coming with retired parents. And so we've got to be responsive to the allied health demand, whether it's in rehabilitative services or nursing, technical specialties, radiology, all those sorts of things. So we really want to step up our health degree offerings, and we're building a new 60,000 square foot building that'll be our home of health and human performance, a brand new college, and we'll break ground on that next year. So the penny sales tax, I mentioned that that's the avenue whereby we can afford these projects. So if you've been on campus lately, we just opened a brand new library. Another project we're very excited about is thinking in our county, there's nowhere to congregate 8,000 people. I mean, there's nothing that can hold that many. So whether it's a high school graduation or a Georgetown Tech's graduation, our graduation ceremonies, a concert, a high school basketball tournament. So on the corner of 501 and University, we're going to build a probably $75 million Convocation Center. And yes, you'll be able to do other things there, like play basketball and volleyball, but more importantly, it'll be a facility for our community to use right there that draws more people into our campus.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Wow, and what's the timeline on that?
Well, we have to submit to the state every year kind of our 4 to 5 year plan of what projects are in the queue, which ones we can afford right now and pay with cash as the penny accrues. This is such a big project, we're going to bond for it, but we have to wait until the bond market gets a little more affordable. The rates aren't the best right now. So if all goes well, we'll line everything up, get the building approved, and go out to market, we hope, in 26 or 27. So and phase 2, by the way, of that project is a Center for the Arts. So I'm a big believer that a community needs to have a 1,800 to 2,000 seat concert hall sort of facility where the Long Bay Symphony can perform, and we can get the traveling show of Hamilton coming through town. Oh, my. Those sorts of things.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I know, having talked to the Long Bay Symphony, they perform at Myrtle Beach High School right now, and to have their own, or a facility like you're describing, for them to perform, I know those artists would be more than thrilled to be able to have that opportunity. So again, the pieces of the puzzle continually come together, right? In terms of knitting together a community that is going to be, I think, poised for some tremendous growth in the future. And like I said earlier, Coastal Carolina has been a constant thread through all of that, and we really appreciate it. And we especially appreciate your leadership. You have been such a delight to sit on our board, and you have been so supportive from the get-go and very approachable. I think all of the students that I've talked to that have had the experience to interact with you can't say enough about how approachable you are, and that's not always the case. So know that you're making a difference, I guess, for what that's worth.
Well, thank you. I believe, look, I have a title, I have a nice office, that's great, but at day's end, I'm no more important than the people that help keep our grounds so immaculate, or the junior lecturer, or the incoming freshman. I mean, we're all part of a big organization that we each have our role, and I just happen to be the president, and I try my best to do a good job. But believe me, I get home, my kids don't call me president. I'm just dad, you know?
Yeah. So
that keeps me grounded.
Well, and you are very humble. I know just yesterday when we were talking, you said, don't call me Dr. Benson, call me Mike. And that to me is a privilege in itself. So as we kind of bring things home, I'm interested in, we've talked a lot about different pieces of the puzzle and so forth in terms of things that are kind of either coming together now as you experience the growth that you're having, or taking more concrete shape as we look at what's coming in the future. Mm-hmm. I'm curious in your perspective for the future of Myrtle Beach. How do you feel about it? What makes you feel that way? And what kind of things will, I guess, bring you downtown or get you kind of powered up about what the future holds?
Yeah. I'll address that two ways. The first is that we've got to diversify our economy. So when I first got here, people used to say, we're one hurricane away from economic disaster because we're so dependent on tourism and, hotel rooms and nights in beds and that sort of thing. As I've been here for almost 4 years now, I've seen a real persistent push and talk about attracting things like DC blocks, the subsea cable, and some of the allied health that's coming into our community. As I mentioned, this is the fastest growing community or county in the fastest growing state in the United States. In terms of percentage increases, we eclipsed both Texas and Florida, which is hard to do. Mm-hmm. And people have seen that the quality of life here is really unmatched. So the more we can attract industry, industry that makes sense, and we can provide more jobs for our graduating students, I think that's really important. That's number one. Number two, Myrtle Beach has always had this reputation of, and I won't say any of the names because I don't like to repeat them, but we're trying to be even more kind of family friendly and oriented toward everybody should feel comfortable here, not just a certain group that's come here for a long time. Mm-hmm. But I think that's really important for a community that is welcoming and inviting to everybody, that's inclusive for everybody can come here and have a wonderful time. And you'll find that people are friendly and they're kind, and we keep things up. So that's why one of those pillars that we're focused on is really the revitalization of downtown, to take that old kind of dilapidated part right in the core of downtown and turn it into that theater that we're talking about, and have more walkable neighborhoods and that sort of thing. I think that's really important because the way you feel about a place, you can tell by the way it presents itself. Curb appeal. When prospective students come to campus, one of the first things they say is, it's so beautiful. So well kept. And we take great pride in that. And Myrtle Beach is getting, I believe, more of that pride, that we are very proud of our city and our community, and we want to showcase it. Mm-hmm. And it has to look good, It does. And we're getting there.
It's that first impression, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And we get so many first impressions when people come here to visit. Yeah. Our goal and ongoing mission is to get them to stay. Yeah. Come here. It's a great place to live. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I thought you mentioned the groundbreaking for the theater, and I had an opportunity to be there. One of the things that was really kind of, I guess, impressing upon me as I was watching what was going on is how many people from all different kind of areas of responsibility, interests, and so forth came together for that event. I mean, that was the best attended groundbreaking I think I've ever seen, right? And I'm interested in your perspective because I was an observer, obviously, but to see that synergy and to have that kind of rallying, cry, if you will, or all of these folks coming together against a single initiative, I think it's so much bigger than just a simple groundbreaking. At least that's what it said to me.
Yeah, I think that's a very astute point. And it's not just the theater. I mean, it's emblematic of a representation of our community in that it attracted all these different groups you're talking about, including our very own students from Coastal that came, and one of them, Max, we've known for a long time.
He spoke, didn't
he spoke.
Yeah.
Musical theater major. He started his sophomore year. But you're right. You had the mayor, you had city council, you had county commission, you had business people, you had educators, you had attorneys, teachers. I mean, it was
small business owners.
You had everybody that's invested in what will happen to Myrtle Beach and what we can do with Myrtle Beach. So the theater, again, I think is the embodiment of the change that can happen once we all kind of rally together.
And it felt so hopeful. I think we had an opportunity to talk with Devin from Devin Parks from the city, and we talked a lot about how all of these initiatives take so much time, economic development, bringing in a new theater, those kind of things. And I felt like that was one of those moments at that groundbreaking where it was the culmination of lots of years of work and effort, and everybody was in kind of a celebratory mode. Yeah. I think the energy level was high and hopeful, and I'm so glad we get a chance to talk about it here because that's really what we're trying to convey in this little podcast is for folks to feel hopeful and to feel positive and know that there's a lot of people that have been and are continuing to work so hard in the background that their stories never get told. People don't really know what they're doing in some instances, but then all of a sudden things start to show up. Roads get reworked. Theaters are coming to the area. New businesses coming downtown. And that's the kind of thing that we want folks to begin to be aware of and to feel super excited about. Yeah. So we thank you for Coastal's role and your role in that process.
Well, it's a real pleasure. And again, I so appreciate how everybody's rallied and come together and said, look, we've talked about these for a long time. Now let's do something about it. And I think you're starting to see some real significant change. The tectonic shifts in our community are really happening.
Yeah. It's that tipping point, right? Where we're going to start to see the things really take off. And it took a long time to get here. I think anybody that's honest would say that. But let's enjoy it while it's here and keep it going, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Benson, for being here today. And we hope you'll come back and talk to us again at another point in time. And just one last thank you for what you're doing for this community and certainly for Coastal Carolina.
Thank you, Peggy. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for all you're doing as well.
All right. Have a great one. Boy, it was great to have Dr. Michael Benson from Coastal Carolina University here with us today. We covered a lot of ground. We learned about his career, we learned about his family, his love for travel, and his passion for this community. I thought his point about how everything starts with a good education was really powerful. And history verifies for us that anyone can do anything if they invest in themselves through education. Coastal Carolina has been an integral part of the revitalization plans and the future revitalization of our community. And for that, we are most grateful. So we will definitely be sure to have Dr. Benson back again, but that's all for now. And until then, or until next time, keep thriving. So that's all for this episode. Thanks so much for listening. You can find this podcast as well as a transcript of the podcast on Partnership Grand Strand's website, which is partnershipgrandstrand.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll release a new episode every other week, so stay tuned to get that behind-the-scenes info on how we are thriving at the beach and across our entire coastal community. Until next time, keep thriving.